Hello everyone and welcome to a new video from Your Overwatch. I'm Eddie the Chump and today we're going to be talking Doomfist. It appears that in the latest huge PTR patch, which everyone is still trying to internalize and figure out, Doom might just have been brought back into viability, especially against comps that run the new hero Baptiste, but more on that later. We've said many times that Doom is the kind of hero who's always on a knife's edge between useless and obnoxious, but he may finally now be in the right place. Today we're going to discuss why we think that is and how when the patch goes live, most likely early next week, you might start seeing Doom a little bit more. Firstly, let's talk about his cooldowns. On the PTR, both his seismic slam and rising uppercut have had their cooldowns reduced by 1 second, going from 7 to 6. This really matters for a character like Doom because not only does it mean that he'll be able to get his combos off more frequently, which is obviously good, but he'll also be significantly more mobile. The uppercut and slam aren't just offensive, they also function as his tools to get out from an engage too. In this way, Doom will be less all-in than he was before, which perhaps was one of the biggest obstacles to him being played. He was potentially devastating, but also capable of insta-throwing. Without these changes, he's kind of like a shotgun. Put him in the right place, hit the target, it's dead, great. Miss, and you'll be back in the spawn room. These changes also represent an overall increase in uptime. You'll have to fend off more Doom set plays than you did previously because he's able to reset quicker. He'll be a threat a higher percentage of the time, and when he is in, he'll be generating more shields for himself and doing more damage in totality. I'm quite surprised that more hasn't been made of him having 2 cooldowns improved at one time. If McCree or Genji had both cooldowns improved, a lot more people would be talking about it. In this way, I think Doom is going to sneak under the radar somewhat and give some players some nasty surprises. From this perspective, Doom is objectively better than he was before, but another bug fix change also has huge ramifications for him. If you cast your minds back to when Doom was originally tuned down the last time, his seismic slam caught a serious nerf. It no longer brought targets towards him anywhere near as much as it did previously, making hitting his combos much harder. It also had its range decreased, but that hasn't been touched on the PTR. At the same time, affected targets were given more control in the air as they bounced up. The combination of all this meant that the Doom player couldn't really predict where the enemy was going to be when he used his ability on them, making combos harder as I said, but just in general, making going for his baseline plays much more risky than they had been. Now some of you might say, good, he was way too strong, but we had always maintained this felt unfair to him. He has a high risk playstyle anyway. Introducing more unpredictability into that equation didn't feel quite right. Well, it appears in classic Blizzard style, the effect of the target not coming towards Doom after being hit by slam wasn't intentional, but in fact a bug, which they've now successfully fixed. This is huge for him. It still has its shorter range and you still have more control in the air as the player hit, but just the fact that he can use this ability with a renewed sense of reliability is a massive buff for him. Imagine trying to play Hammond, but his pile driver didn't soft CC targets towards you when you slammed down. It'd be pretty difficult, right? Well, the same is true for Doom. People really underestimate the fact of reliability has on these kinds of interactions. Doom can now hit you with his E and know with relative certainty where you will be for the follow-up shots and uppercuts, which is very important in some specific matchups we'll talk about later, as well as a straight increase in the uppercut's effectiveness itself. Players will whiff that ability much less now, which is great because it's also one of the times that Doom is vulnerable mid-combo. He just kind of hangs in the air, and if he didn't even take an opponent with him, his ability to get value or at least trade was diminished greatly. Don't forget, when they nerfed the slam, they also gave him some improvements to his hand cannon to make up for it. Those are still there, so now we have the actual Doom we were supposed to get way back then, except improved by cooldown reduction as well. It's crazy that a bug can have so much impact on a hero's fortunes and effectiveness, but that's the way that Doom is. Another important interaction is how boops and other soft crowd control abilities have been changed on the PTR. This isn't Doom specific and is more of a systemic adjustment, but it does affect him positively. Previously, boops had certain conditions where their effectiveness could be curtailed by various factors. If the target had momentum, like say a Winston leaping at you or a D.Va using her thrusters, a boop to that target wouldn't change their velocity or direction anywhere near as much as if they had just been standing still. Likewise, if the target was shooting, they would displace less than normal. Particularly relevant examples would be Orisa and D.Va. Well, now on the PTR, boops against shooting targets and those using movement abilities have been brought in line with those that aren't, want, in effect making boops much more effective. This was done to create a more predictable baseline, whereby players would know with some certainty how an enemy target was going to behave when you hit them with stuff like this. Just like the bug fix to Slam, this change means that when you use your abilities, you will more easily be able to predict where the target is going to be, which in our opinion will result in a net increase of effectiveness of not only abilities like Lucio Boop or Farah Conch Blast, but also Doom Slam, Rocket Punch and Uppercut. Here's a word of caution though, this works in Doom's favour, yes, but it also works against him, as he can be soft CC'd in this way much more effectively too. A switched on Lucio was one of the best options for fending off a rampant Doomfist. His right click could send a Doom off course from a certain kill, and it was very difficult for Doom to finish a Lucio off himself because Lucio has high mobility and self-heal. Lucio couldn't really kill the Doom either, but just interrupting his combo set plays was actually huge. Doom's nature as a hit or miss hero is something we've already talked about today. Well, Lucio was and is a great option for increasing the miss tally. For certain, these overall changes will take adjustment, not only for Doom players but for everyone, as they're going to be more unsafe in scenarios they previously weren't worried about as much. Everyone will have to adjust their footsie game, and Doom can certainly benefit from that. Now, another reason why Doom is going to be better is because when the new hero Baptiste goes live, there will inevitably be a period where he gets played almost every game, even in comps and against heroes he shouldn't be. Doom is one of those heroes, and I'll explain why. Immortality Field is Baptiste's best ability. It does define him a lot in our minds at least, and we've already said that if Immortality Field doesn't get big value, Baptiste is actually not doing all that much compared to other healers. What Immortality Field wants to do is eat massive burst damage that otherwise had no answer, things like grav combos. Well, Doom's ultimate in specific isn't that great, it's not how you get the majority of your kills with him anyway. Immortality Field being used against it is kind of a waste. The Doom player isn't that bothered. Kind of like hacking a McCree with Sombra. Is he even bothered though? No, not really. Other characters are much more severely curtailed by that ability. How Doom does get most of his kills, through Rocket Punch and Uppercut Slam combos, is actually still really viable against Immortality Field, because they all knock a target out of its protection. Slam on its own right might not, but an Uppercut afterwards or on its own, sure. That spells trouble for anyone within. Likewise, a Rocket Punch from the right angle will straight up throw you out of it immediately. This means that Baptiste's best value has virtually no effect on a Doomfist's effectiveness. Not only are his abilities ill-suited to dealing with Doom, but Baptiste himself does not match up well. Baptiste outside of Immortality Field is basically a glorified soldier who Doom absolutely farms. Yes, he has his own rocket jump, but that ability is very well balanced. Its charge time is strikingly similar to Doom's Rocket Punch. There is a part of me that thinks that's not an accident. He might be able to time it correctly to avoid one of Doom's cooldowns, but not the resulting follow-up. It's very rare that Baptiste will be able to dodge 2 attacks by anyone, let alone one of the fastest wham bam thank you ma'am cooldown heroes in the game. Baptiste's damage can be potent, but hitting a fast-moving burst hero like Doom will be very difficult, especially when you consider that if Doom has hit any abilities whatsoever and therefore has shields, the chances of Baptiste hitting enough headshots to take Doom down are slim to none. People say Baptiste is good against dive, and there's a rationale to that. He's good against the engage of dive tanks and can stay alive against or evade flanker DPS like Tracer and Genji, and Immortality Field can get real value against those comps. But Doom is a hero with mobility that hits in big short bursts of impact. Even if Baptiste does put down an Immortality Field and somehow gets value against Doom's kit, Doom's better cooldowns mean that he'll also stand a much better chance of escaping himself to reset. Remember how long Immortality Field's cooldown is. Doom will definitely get another bite of the apple against a Baptiste if his first attempt fails, and then Immortality Field won't even be a factor. Baptiste's ult, Amplification Matrix, also doesn't really help him or his team deal with Doom because Doom's playstyle is so in and out, so that means it will be very difficult to leverage that boosted damage against him, especially with his improved cooldowns. Its placement is also quite static and Doom can get around that with his better mobility. The fact is, Baptiste is one of the worst supports against Doom outside of Zen. Mercy can fly away, Lucio is very awkward to kill with his mobility and CC, and Ana has a hard no button with sleep, even if it is harder to hit. So playing Baptiste versus Doom is not a strong option overall, and that means the comps that have Baptiste in them will also likely struggle against him. The challenge to outplaying a Baptiste comp is getting around that value of Immortality Field, and Doom does that just by the nature of his kit. It's a bonus that everything else about Baptiste is also exploitable for him. So when the inevitable Baptiste matchmaking meta surfaces, surfaces post his release, Doom should have another day in the sun. If you played him before but gave up because he was nerfed into irrelevance, consider picking him back up again when the patch does go live, which should be coming early next week. And that's about it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a rating. If you never want to miss another video of ours again, please click the bell icon next to the subscribe button to join the notification squad. You'll be in great company. And finally, please follow the Your Overwatch Twitter. It's where you can find updates about new videos and other cool stuff. I've been Eddie the Chump, and until next time.